everybody, and welcome to Premier Fantasies. Now, the question is, should there be a Premier Fantasies when there's an international window? The answer is, of course, because the international window drives us mad. I cannot believe there's another one coming up. It's dreadful. It's actually worse than bypass surgery.
Look,
an international week. I can officially say that.
No, dude. I actually like it when there is like an international break, because it gives us an opportunity to re-strategize, look at our teams, look at what's going on.
You do?
No, I do.
No, you must be the only person on the planet who likes an international weekend.
Every time after an international weekend, I score good points because I re-strategize.
Another selfish reason. Anyway, I want to welcome this familiar faces on here. You can see Keagan and you can see Gabriel, but there's a new face, Luke. Now, Luke is on because, well, Luke can tell us, because you clocked it hard on the weekend. With how many points do you accumulate?
94.
94.
Wow.
Welcome back, Gabriel and Keagan. It's been a while since we've seen you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Well, the first question to ask is obviously how you did it, Luke, because we all have our own teams, not joint teams, and I thought I was going along reasonably nicely. I think I ended up at 64 or something, and I thought I'm definitely going to make progress. But 64 and into the 90s is an incredible difference. Take us through your team and tell us, was it a fluke? Because the last guest we had on said it was a complete lockout. What was your team that managed to get to almost 100 points?
I think Ollie Watkins helped me. That was an outside option, and then obviously the West Ham boys also helped me there. But basically, the core of the team is obviously Fernandes, Kane, and Son. Son was a mishit this weekend, but making Kane captain was almost a guaranteed bet. And then Southampton keeping a clean sheet also just gave me that extra boost, seeing that, I had two West Ham players, one goal from midfield with Souček, a clean sheet from Kufal, and then the two Southampton boys, and then the three top scorers, which would have been Watkins, Kane, and Fernandes, really just, I think, boosted me up into the 90s.
Impressive.
Yeah, and it also boosted you into top 20, which is really, really great.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great season, but hopefully it's turning around now.
It looks like it. And what do you believe is your strategy going forward? You've got a game week to think about it.
I'm thinking about playing wildcard now. I've saved my wildcard for a while, so I'm thinking to play it going into after the international break. Depending on if there's any injuries picked up or not, I might also gamble and keep the team the same. The strategy going forward is I always tend to stick to the same strategies. I look at the teams who's performing and who's most likely to get either a goal or assist and put them into the team. So you have the likes of Ollie Watkins. If Aston Villa is going to score, it's likely going to be him or Grealish that do it. Obviously, it's not guaranteed. And it's the same with Souček. I think he's at 4.5 million. He's an absolute steal.
Yeah, but that being said, there are quite a few one at least differential player that I can see in your team, like Souček. And I think a lot of people haven't played Dingy for a while.
Yeah. He's got good game weeks coming up, so that's why I actually left him in the team. I was thinking possibly to take him out, but he's got a decent run of fixtures, so I didn't want to take the hit and get him out of the team.
So while you're talking about an Everton player, I want to bring in Keagan and Gabriel here and ask them both the question. Have Everton shot their bolt? Because they won their first four, and I don't know, we've got Rodriguez. He didn't really contribute, Keagan, for us last weekend. I've got Keane at the back. The clean sheets seem to have dried up. I don't know. That might be Everton done and dusted. What do you think, Keagan?
I still think Everton have a good way to move forward. I think James especially is going to be a great asset. I think Richarlison seems to be a big miss for them because that presence in the field, it's not there anymore. And I don't think Calvert-Lewin has really got that presence up front. Yes, he can hold the ball up well, but he just doesn't get into the same spaces. As for their defense, I was very, very, very shocked to see Pickford bench last week or the week before. And it seems like Ancelotti's kind of jumping to and from a few options. So I think I would stay clear of their defenders. I think Digne is a great option. for his price, I think there's other options out there. I mean, you can look at Chilwell. I mean, Villa's got great fixtures coming up, so Matt Target's a good one. So I think in terms of the Everton assets, I would definitely stick with their midfielders and maybe Calvert-Lewin, but I wouldn't triple up with a defender.
Mm-hmm. I've got an interesting question, a question that's been burning me the whole day. How did you find this Hakim Ziyech? Gabriel, like how?
Hakim Ziyech, just looking at some of the statistics from when he was at Ajax, he's a very good player. I rate him quite highly. And there's certain types of players who play in certain leagues. You're not sure if their style of play will match with the Premier League. But the way he plays, it's almost like you can slot him anywhere and he'll be able to do well. So just looking at how he started off, we thought that it would have been a good idea. Havertz had COVID-19, but Chelsea was still on a good run of form. So we wanted to stay capitalizing on that. And we thought that Ziyech would be a very good option, especially with Pulisic having been injured as well, having that hamstring injury. Yeah. So we thought, who else will probably be a guaranteed starter and where most of the attacks will come from. So Ziyech was the option and seemed to have been a really good one. It also helped that Chelsea had it was a decent fixture that they had against them or for them. And just turned out to be a lucky but thought out option as well.
It was well thought out. And if you look at the statistics in terms of the round score and the highest scoring players, he's in the top 10. He's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7th, which is fantastic. But what I am noticing that there is a trend of differential players who are at the top. So we've got Fernandes, who's at the top. He's not necessarily a differential player because a lot of people like him. Then we've got Fabianski as a goalkeeper. But then we've got someone called Eze. Is it?
Yeah, he's the Crystal Palace guy.
I can never pronounce it.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace, he got 13 points, you know. And then you've got Watkins, who got 13 points. Doherty, who got 12. Target, who got 11. And your Ziyech, and then Armstrong. These are players who last season were like, who are they?
Can I add something? But I just want to ask Grotlo something because we haven't seen much of each other today, and now we're on the show together. And I just want to find out from her why you asked Gabriel, how did he find Ziyech when your own husband has him in the Neil's Nuggets team, everybody, but she chose to ignore her own husband as though he was a half-wit and say, Gabriel. You see, the thing is, you think that I go and study your team. It's not about you. No, she does study my team because the other day, I can't remember what side it was because I've got short-term memory loss these days, but one of my players' teams conceded a penalty, right, which means they left their clean sheet. So she says to me, as the penalty is going to be taken, there go your 6 points. So I just said, what? She said, don't you have this player? I said, yes. Oh, never mind. So don't buy into the fact she doesn't know my real team, Simon.
No, honestly, I don't sit and study every single player. I know that there are some players that he'll always have, and then there are others that he won't. So I don't know how you found him. I don't know how he found him. But that was a really, really good buy.
But it was exactly as Gabriel said. And bring in Luke here because I want to ask him about Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea, I've done very well in the league. But for me, as a fantasy league player, there'd been nothing but frustration. I started off with Werner, and he took a couple of weeks to get going. And I had Pulisic in my side. He wasn't even in the squad. So I dumped Pulisic. Then I heard he was coming back. So I thought I must get Pulisic. I brought him back. I think he played a game and a half. And he's gone again. So the reason I found Ziyech was purely because I had to have a replacement for Pulisic and Havertz who got COVID.
Yeah. Has your strategy changed because of all the players that are getting injured and sick, Gabriel and Keagan, or what is your strategy going forward? How are you guys managing to keep your team together? I mean, you guys scored what, 77 points last week.
Yeah, so I think we had a good week this week, and we had 11 points on the bench with targets, which was
that's
unlucky.
So frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, but I suppose in hindsight, everyone's 2020. But I think moving forward, I think especially with a lot of players with COVID around, and I think that's why we're trying to hold our wild card as far as possible. because we're also waiting to see when the City and United double fixture will be, because I think their assets would be great. And I mean, even Villa, Villa have a double fixture as well. And with their current form, it could be great. So, I mean, if you've got the likes of Grealish, Watkins, I would personally hold on to them until you've really know what's happening. And I think it just shows how you should really wait till the very last minute to try and make transfers, because, I mean, with Havertz, we literally knew the day before that he had COVID. So I think to make early transfers...
It works both ways, Keagan, Gabriel, and I want to address this question to Luke so Luke can answer it. It's very frustrating because there was a guy on the weekend who, for all the world, had a yellow mark on him as though he wasn't going to play. I think it was actually Rodriguez. And he ended up playing. And then you get these, which I suppose they can't control, late decisions with injuries and COVID and so forth. But I don't know. In fact, I do know. These yellow marks, not so much of the red marks, but the yellow exclamation marks are unreliable. You can't rely on them.
No, you can't. I think it also happened earlier in the season. I think it was Son was the player. He was doubtful to play. And I actually took him out my team.
I did the same.
And I think he went and scored a hat-trick or something like that. So I don't know if that's Mourinho's tactics or what the plan is there, but it's frustrating. So there must be a point where you have to, maybe ignore it every now and then and take the chance.
Yeah. What makes it more frustrating, and I'm sure you feel the same, Gabriel, is VAR. VAR also kind of just plays against you, because you celebrate a goal and then you have to stop celebrating the goal because you know that, VAR's taken over.
And I mean, some of the decisions are shocking. I was actually, I was mentioning to Keagan a little bit earlier, Leeds United against Crystal Palace, where Patrick Bamford, that offside decision was shocking. I mean, this guy is clearly onside, and because he's pointing his hand out, then they deem him to be offside. And it's ridiculous as well, because those are the kind of decisions that change a game. We all know that it's a mental thing as well. And I go back to, I think it was a World Cup game. I think it was England against Germany that played, where they were losing 2-0. They came back 2-2. Lampard scored that goal from I don't know how far. And then they deemed, no, you know what, that's it. And people don't really understand that it's actually really difficult to get to the point where you catch up against a good team, and that momentum can carry you through, which is what I think would have happened with Leeds. But then because something like that happened, it gets into your head, and at the end of the day, I think Crystal Palace did do well, but I think that's what ruined Leeds' opportunity to actually go on and win that game. And it's not necessarily VAR, because I'm for VAR, but the way it's implemented is shocking. It's terrible.
The thing is that there is a human being behind that, that screen, behind that monitor, and it's become extremely subjective. Whereas if the rules were implemented for what the rules are, it may actually work.
Yeah, I mean, even with that hand, I can't remember which game. I think it was the Liverpool game with the handball.
Handball decision.
I mean, he was like, where are people supposed to put their arms? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's so many handball calls happening where the guy's literally standing right next to the guy, but because they deem his hand is in a slightly unnatural position. I know it's, I mean, if you're running, where must you put your arms? Yeah. So I think it's extremely frustrating, but I think that makes the case for penalty takers. I mean, yes, De Bruyne missed a penalty in the first time in the Premier League since, I don't know, 2018 apparently.
And Vardy missed one.
And
Vardy.
But you're so right. Just my last comment on the Bamford thing, I have to vent it. I mean, it's ridiculous, because if you actually stop Bamford at the angle, right, if you stop a human being at the angle he was at, he'd fall over. So he was in momentum going forward. His entire body that you can really score a goal with, apart from this minuscule section here, was behind the ball. But my concern is that as football fans, I mean, we all want to see goals, right? So surely the experts and the people who are running VAR should err on the side of, if it's very, very that close, then the benefit goes to the attacker. My sister was actually saying this during the week, because we want to see goals. So in that case, if they had allowed the goal, there isn't a person on the planet who would have said, it was offside.
No, definitely.
Exactly. I mean, and that's where that definition, clear and obvious error, it didn't
Right.
look clear and obvious. So
Yeah.
how is it that they were still able to call it? I mean, when they have those fine lines and to take the dots from the armpits, and it makes no sense to me.
The advantage used to always be to the front man when they couldn't pick up an offside in the olden days. They should just keep the same rule. If it's going to be millimeters, just give it to the attacker and let's get on with the game.
Let's get on with the game. And you're right, because it also slows down the game. Speaking of frustrating, I want to chat to the Man United fans. How frustrated are you, my friends?
We won this last weekend, so we are very happy.
Yeah,
But I mean, do you really think that this is going to last?
I'll let Gabriel start.
So Nico was silent. It just went quiet.
Manchester United is so hot and cold. You don't know what you're going to get from them on any given day. And of course, I'm an advocate for a manager needs to know how to manage the team that he has. He needs to know how to be tactically inclined, make changes, etc. Get the best out of your players. That's what I do believe a manager needs to do. But a lot of the time as well, the players are just they're awful, and they're playing like they don't want to play. Like there's no hunger there, and I think they just pick and choose on a certain day. All right, today we're going to be hungry. Today we're going to play like the game against Everton. That's how we want Manchester United to play every game, and when I say hot and cold, I mean, we beat PSG, who were Champions League finalists. We beat Leipzig 5-0, who were Champions League semi-finalists. Right. And then the next Champions League game, we go on and lose to a team whose name I can't even pronounce, so it's ridiculous. It really is frustrating. And we were like 14th on the table after 8 matches, which is extremely bad. It's terrible.
I mean, West Ham's ahead of you.
Yeah, even West Ham's ahead of us.
Ahead of you guys.
But yeah, Spurs are ahead of basically everyone except for who's first? I don't even know who's first. West Ham.
But on a positive note, I mean, Keagan, I have to say, for me, the jury was still out on Fernandes, not only in terms of a player, and I'm anti-Manchester United. So what I'm about to say is a huge feather in his cap. I mean, I have to say that as an individual soccer player and a contributor, and his work ethic, and also in terms of points in fantasy league, he's almost a must-have now, because he's the guy that is driving you forward in terms of play, in terms of leading by example. I mean, Bruno has been sensational.
He's becoming like the son of Manchester United.
I think he might be even more reliable this son, to be honest.
Yeah, I think with Bruno, he's definitely the player that is instilling all the drive in our side. I mean, it seems like he's got the most passion out of anybody. I mean, he's been there less than a year and he's got more drive than Pogba, Rashford, Greenwood, our own captain, Harry Maguire. So it just seems like he's the only one that's pushing the guys forward. And that's what's so frustrating to watch, is to have such inconsistency in the team, because the only consistent thing in our team is Bruno Fernandes. And everyone around him is just so hot, so cold, like Gabriel was saying. So it doesn't help with us constantly changing formations and constantly using different players. And it's so difficult to watch. And like with certain players, I just still don't know how they're making our starting 11. I mean, we've got replacements for them and they're not starting. So I think for me, it's just so frustrating to watch as a fan, not even as a fantasy, player, as an actual fan of football. It's so difficult to watch.
Gabriel brought up a good point about the coach, and in the latest Premier League news, it seems that Pochettino is sniffing around Manchester United or Chelsea.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Do you think he would be a fit for Manchester United?
I think Pochettino would be he would be a great fit if he gets given what he needs. I mean, even at Spurs, I mean, Daniel Levy held him back quite a bit with the signings that he could make and this, because he wanted to build a stadium, and there's a lot of limitations. So I think if if Pochettino is given not free reign, but more control over what happens, I think he's got the right mindset. Because I've heard about us rumored with the Leipzig manager as well. So I think either way, I would still like to give Ollie more time personally.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think
No,
Did I say
sorry.
that out loud?
Sorry, Keegan, hold on a minute. No, we also want to give him a lot of time.
No, the reason why
So
I
does
say really
Luke.
like that is that I feel for you guys. As a long-suffering Spurs fan, I feel for you guys. I know exactly how it feels and how painful it is to watch all these players just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you want the coach to take more accountability for how he structures the team and how he puts everything together. So I feel your frustration. So
I think
empathetic.
with whatever happens, I think we just need to pick someone and stick with them, because we're not giving anyone enough time to do anything.
True.
I feel like the Liverpool of the past, we were like, oh, we used to be so good, where they literally gave Klopp time. He said, give me time, I'll make it work. And he's obviously come right. Same with Guardiola at City. So I think if we get Pochettino, we need to give him the time. We need to give him a season or two just to get back into the swing of things, because he's been out of football for a year. So
I'd like to ask Luke something which is not necessarily fantasy league orientated, but of course it is, because if you're going to win the league, then you have players that need to do it, and we all want them in our fantasy league team. But Luke, how do you see this year? Because at the moment it's topsy-turvy. Gabriel and Keagan have already told us where Manchester United are on the league. Manchester City not much better. Arsenal huffing and puffing away. And then you've got some high flyers. I mean, last week, for a moment, Southampton were top of the league, and so was Spurs. So my question to you is, who do you think, give me in your opinion, and give our viewers in your opinion, what do you think the top 4 finishers will be? Who will get the Champions League positions?
I think it'll be difficult to say. I mean, talking about even the schedules and all the big teams complaining that they need time for this and they need time for that, I think it's great. They've got the money to spend. They've got these reserves. Let them play twice a week. In terms of the top 4, I think obviously Spurs will be up there. I think Chelsea will be up there. Then it's difficult to say. I think, Leicester's doing well, but whether it will last is another story. And I think Liverpool and City might finish it off in the top 4. So I would say Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool, and City.
I don't think I agree. I think there's going to be an underdog that makes the top 4. That's just my gut feel, but I could be wrong. Gabriel, there's also rumors of Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to the Premier League. Yes. Is that a real rumor or is that a fake rumor to join Wolves?
Who's going to pay his wages?
Wolves.
I'll never believe that rumor. I know that because Ronaldo's a Manchester United darling. Everybody at Man United, you can be the biggest Barcelona fan and you'll still love Cristiano if you're a Man United fan as well. And because he's a darling, then the rumors start gaining traction. I actually really think it started by one Manchester United fan on Twitter with the name Man United _Eric, and this rumor just starts gaining traction until it starts going to like the Daily Mail and whatever other publications you see it on. But I don't think he's going back to Man United. I think his time there is done, and I'm perfectly happy with it that way as well. No basis to these rumors.
If a little team like Wolves gets Cristiano Ronaldo, we're going to see something really different in this Premier League.
Wolves can't afford
that'll be
what
something.
he rings up on his credit card. Never mind his wages. That can never happen.
Maybe he'll play for charity.
Yeah.
Sorry guys,
Speaking
and
of
I just like to apologize to Man United _Eric. I made that up. I didn't mean to say that. Anyway.
But I mean, speaking of reunions, like what's happening with Bale? I mean, he hasn't been as on fire as everyone thought he would be.
I don't agree. I think that Bale has come in at the right time to fix the culture of the team. So he's he's come in there and the work ethic has become a lot better. And I think that's why Spurs is doing well.
Because people are playing for their places?
Correct. So I think that it's not really about just his scoring, and I think that will come with time as he acclimatizes to the team and as they know how to feed him. So for example, this weekend in the game, I didn't see they missed opportunities to feed him. There was one, I think it was Son who missed a very big opportunity to feed Bale. Gareth Bale, yes. I called him Gail the other day. Yes, I'm just like, that's a Gail or Bale. Anyway, so I think the mojo around, in terms of playing with him, will work out eventually in the same way as Son and Harry Kane worked out a mojo and how the team rallies around them. I think that will come with time. In the same way also as when Lucas Moura came in for the team, they learned to play with each other. That will take, but what he brings to the team, he brings that work ethic. And I think that is part of the reason why the team is doing so well.
Well, I think certainly, Luke?
I think you'll bring that winning mentality into the dressing room. There's not much, no real winners there. And he'll just bring that, and it'll rub off on everyone, and then eventually, we'll just start winning.
He was perfectly serious, but I don't know, it just came off.
That's
the shade.
That's the way
the shade. You see that?
We've gone into the shade. No, but I think Luke is spot on, and I've always said that about Tottenham, which I feel a little bit with Manchester United as well. I mean, I spoke about Fernandes being a leader, but I think he's been thrust into that role. I don't think he's a natural Roy Keane or a Vieira or Vincent Kompany. So he's kind of been thrust into it. If you look at the Spurs team, I mean, we've got the goalkeeper as captain. Now, I don't believe, that a goalkeeper, I know there have been some exceptions over the years with Dino Zoff and others, but generally speaking, I don't think as a goalkeeper, you're in the thick of it. So you can really rally your troops as a Roy Keane would do. So I look at Spurs. They tried Eric Dyer as a captain, but I think they lack a little bit of leadership. Whereas in other sides, you can see who the natural leader is, and I think you need that, particularly in games which Spurs got through on the weekend. Maybe a little bit of luck and the genius of Harry Kane, but something Luke said earlier on, Gabriel, is that with so much of a congested fixture list, some of these sides that are towards the bottom and can defend, i.e. a Burnley and players like this, they will know if a big side has played twice in 6 days that, we're going to put 11 men behind the ball and just frustrate the hell out of them. So, and you can keep it tight. I mean, and it's not easy to break any football side down in the Premier League, Gabriel, if their mindset is, we're just going to defend.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, we can see with a lot of the teams as well that some of them really struggle. Arsenal's a good example. Arsenal have some fantastic players. Aubameyang's a fantastic striker. We know that on his day can be one of the best strikers in the world. But that whatever the situation with Mesut Ozil is, some people say that there's other problems because, I mean, nobody really believes that it's because of his football ability that he's not in the side. That aside, that's the kind of players that you need. So in most teams now, you don't really have those kind of players who can unlock defenses. And a lot of the smaller sides have seen that, bar maybe Manchester City with Kevin De Bruyne, who out of nowhere, he'll pick out a pass that nobody sees. And then that's Manchester City scoring their goals or whatever it is. But even teams like Liverpool, the really big teams, they don't really have those players who can make those kind of passes. And I'm seeing that though with Chelsea at the moment. I think that Pulisic, Ziyech, those are the capable players of breaking down the really frustrating teams like Burnley and West Brom who will put 11 behind the ball. But at the end of the day, most of the teams don't have that. And I think that's a very, very good point. They'll really take advantage of that, particularly maybe after a Champions League game or Europa League game or something late on Thursday night. If they're traveling to Turkey or whatever it is and they come back, then that's really something that people should look at. Maybe even in terms of fantasy, maybe then that's the moment that you want to put in Burnley players, because you know now they're playing against Arsenal, who just played against Olympiacos in Turkey on Thursday, and they haven't had that much time to recover on Sunday. So don't expect a big result from them. I'm not sure if Champions League and Europa League was last week, the week just before this game. For example, and that's an example. Arsenal lost 3-0 to Aston Villa, who aren't playing in Europe, but Arsenal were playing in Europe. So that's another reason why, for example, I thought Martinez would be a good option as goalkeeper. You know, things like that. So yeah,
I just want to remind Gabriel, it was definitely that week, because don't you remember Ole throwing his toys out the cot? Oh, we played on Wednesday and we got a lunchtime kickoff. And meanwhile, I looked straight away. I said, hang on a minute, because Spurs tomorrow have got a lunchtime kickoff and we play the Thursday. It was identical.
Yeah, it is true, but we back our manager. So what he says, I'm with Ole. It was
sure. No, it was the first time I've seen him that grumpy. I mean, he was really grumpy.
But also, I want to chat about, there was one poor refereeing decision.
Only one?
No, this weekend when we were watching some of the games, some of the refereeing decisions were not great. And I was actually saying, I think I was saying to my sister-in-law that we need to bring in diversity into this refereeing. We need to bring in female refs, because these men are just not doing it. They are not.
You guys can answer this one.
I was literally like, what?
I agree.
Of course.
I would be interested in seeing how a female referee would call some of these games.
Well,
and I'm yet to see a referee stand by their decision where it's against VAR and actually do something different to what VAR actually wants them to do.
That happened over the weekend with West Ham, and the referee said no penalty, and then I think it was on the 93rd minute, no penalty, then VAR couldn't decide, and then the ref goes over, and then he couldn't, it takes him time. So why, it was the 93rd minute, and then he ends up taking the penalty in the 99th minute. So we're wasting all that time. And obviously, if you're looking at it so in depth, there's a reason why you're looking at it. It's obviously, it's not a penalty. They're looking for the slightest contact to give these penalties away.
I agree.
Again, Luke, if it was a female, the decision would have been made much quicker.
Well, what I will agree with is there's certainly room for improvement. So if it happens to be female or male, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there should be no gender.
I think for me,
difference.
As a female football supporter, I long for the days where we will have, female referees refereeing male matches as well. And
if they're good enough,
and the
they
other way
can.
around. And they are. I mean, remember World Cup? The female World Cup was fantastic. It was beautiful to watch. It was clean. I loved it.
I'd actually love to see the FA Super League. I can't find anywhere or anyhow to watch any of these matches except for highlights on the respective YouTube channels. But I would love to see Manchester United women play week in, week out. And, I think that would also be a good way to see how the female referees behave, or how the females referees ref in matches. I think that's a relatively okay term to use. And then they can use that and then bring them to the Premier League if that's the case. Because, I mean, they are playing professional football. It is gaining a lot of traction at the moment. So why not? They're all trained the same way. Why not give it a go?
I'm interested to see, I'm not too sure on this, but is there, female refs in the lower divisions of England? Because that's the FA would, as it is. So it's actually the FA's responsibility to start training now.
I think with the Prem, we've only got that one linesman.
Linesman, and she's very good.
Yes, and then there was that whole thing with her and Aguero, when Aguero touched her on the back to apologize or something. And so I think
I would have slapped the taste out of his mouth, personally. But hey.
Exactly. So I think it's also a sticky situation where it comes to how do the men respond? Like, what do you like?
Sticky situation.
How
with
will
some
they behave?
players, like if you have a Diego Costa reacting like an absolute animal, or a Suarez that's just bitten someone's shoulder.
Again, the sticky situation are the men's hands and clearly teeth. Anyway, guys. It's been so lovely catching up with you, Gabriel and Keagan. It's been a while. It's good to have you back.
Yeah,
I've missed
it's
that
good to be
text
here
behind
again.
you, Gabriel. And
Thank
you
you.
coming to us all the way from Manchester United Stadium. We love it.
I'm back. Now travel's completely allowed. So
and with Luke, we must fear, because if he intends playing his wild card next week and he's just got 94, we might be all chasing him and talking to him about getting 120 points next week. So Luke, congratulations. Good to have you on.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having
we
me.
hope you keep up your form, in which case we'll see you again somewhere during the season.
Hopefully soon.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best in planning your team during this international week. And we want to thank everyone who has supported Premier Fantasies thus far. We look forward to having more of you on the show, as you know, more players. We've got 107 people in our league at the moment, which is fantastic.
And we would have, I just want to say something, we would have had 108, but my sister, close sister-in-law, got impatient with the game after 3 weeks and left.
She literally just like, yeah. But nonetheless, we wish you a restful international game week, and we hope to see you guys next week in preparation for game week 9 on Premier Fantasies. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and good night to all of you.